Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Teacher's Desk, where teachers from around the world, and especially Lori and I, talk about our experiences in this day of COVID that will be in the virtual classroom. And the thoughts and opinions that are expressed in this forum are solely those of the host and the guest and do not reflect any thoughts and opinions of the school systems where we work. So we are going to today talk to a caregiver that is helping to with her grandkids in virtual learning. So, Lori, you have kids. A lot of them, do a lot of them have adults home with them?
Yeah, a lot of my students are not with adults. A lot of they're the opposite, not with adults. We do have a few that do have parents that are working from home, but I have a lot of my students that are home by themselves because their parents don't have anyone to watch them or their siblings. So that is an issue. So fortunately, you have your mom watching your kids. So that's
Yes.
interesting to talk to her and find out how that's going.
Right. We are definitely blessed because, as you said, a lot of my students also have parents that work outside of the home. And so it can be difficult sometimes just to help them engage and have the parents involved. So we are blessed to have my mother that has come down to help with the two girls that are still in K-12, one in the second grade, one in the 10th grade. So we are going to bring her home on now, Marjorie Kennard. Ma, can you just introduce yourself and tell us about your experiences so far?
Well, I tell you, I appreciate you two ladies thinking about having me on this line. I've had more than 50 years now in the
Wow.
educational arena, from children 6 months old through college. So I felt that I was somewhat prepared to face what I faced here over the last couple of weeks. And I tell you, it's more than I even imagined. What these children are going through. Now, I have one in the second grade and one in the 10th grade. Of course, the one in the 10th grade far surpasses my education when I was in the 10th grade, because she's in a special program where when she graduates, she will have her AA degree. So she's taking college courses in the 10th grade, and I can barely speak English. So here we are. But I'm just so happy. I guess you have some things to ask me, because if you don't, I'll just go on and on and on.
Right. We were so interested in what you had to say. And you're right, with all of your experience, you bring that to the table and you can even just see what a big deal this change has been. So what has your experience been with Caitlin? Because I know you're mainly monitoring her. How is it with the virtual setup in the school?
Well, I tell you, I get up early in the morning. Now, for me, I'm one who would get up way after noon. So here I'm tracing up early in the morning so that she can be on by noon. You would think that being on by noon is no big deal, but it is. And the first day I sat with her, I was just amazed at the teacher and how the teacher responded to the children. Now, this teacher, as you know, is a second grade teacher. She has children in the morning, one set, and then the other set in the afternoon. All of those children are in the same classroom. However, she has divided them up. Now, I don't know what criteria they use to divide them up, whether they were alphabetically done or according to age and months. I just don't know. But she has a critical job and she's an excellent teacher. And why do I know she's an excellent teacher? Because I've trained teachers myself and I know what to look for in a trained teacher who is thorough and who cares, the way she talks to them and all of that. Now, the thing that is of interest to me is that when I was teaching in the elementary schools and even in the preschools all along, you're taught that the children should have large letters to read. Everything has to be big for them so that they can really see. But on that computer screen, on that Chromebook screen, it's so small. The writing is so small. I don't understand how the children, I mean, it's against all motor skills, all sensory motor skills, even though these children now are adept to computers because they've been doing it since they were babies. There's really something there that's missing, that interpersonal relationship. And but the teacher does all she can, because in her group, I think there are 5 children, and that's pretty good. And she gives them individual attention. These children know how to just do all kinds of things on the computer. I'm just amazed. And when she had my granddaughter to share her screen on the first day, I don't even know how to share a screen. And she said, Caitlin, would you share your screen? And Caitlin just popped down and was sharing. I said, Caitlin, how do you know how to pop screen? I watch mommy. I watch mommy. See, so our children are picking things up that we don't even know they're picking up. So she's very adept to what is going on. And all of the children seem to be doing well, but there's still that interpersonal relationship that I think the children need. You know, they have little signs when they want to go to the bathroom. They have signs when they finish their assignments, and they use the little whiteboard. I didn't even know what a whiteboard was. And when I saw that it was a piece of laminated paper and you use the marker, on it, and she uses that every day. Yeah, and holds it up and all of that.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
So
And
are the kids able to interact with each other in the class, or it's just mainly interaction with the teacher?
the children do not interact with each other at all. As a matter of fact, they're put on mute. They're put on mute. And when the teacher wants to address them, ask them a question about something, she unmutes them. And when she unmutes them, they give the answer and they just sit quietly, just like little stumps on a log. Now, a couple of kids, well, not, I guess this is one child. Kind of acted up. You wouldn't think that a child would act up on the computer. He's always eating. And she says, you don't eat in class. And he's slouching down when he's supposed to be sitting erect. These teachers expect the children to be sitting erect and ready to learn. And I don't blame her because she has a lot to do and she has a lot on her because she is sharing, she's reading, she's showing this and showing that. Then the children go out into, I guess you would say, virtual rooms by themselves.
Breakout.
Breakout
rooms. Yes, they go to breakout rooms and they do individual assignments. And that to me is amazing because it's pretty much based on what they can do and it's kind of timed. But if the child does not get it, the teacher is ready for the child to come back in. And luckily, my granddaughter is always ready because she knows her stuff and she's doing her thing. What happens is that she has a learning station here in the dining room at the dining room table, and I'm right here at the head of that table, and she's right here. Now, I keep my mouth shut because I know there's one teacher, and that's the teacher at that school. I'm not the teacher. I'm just someone to lend support. And and all of the children need somebody to lend support, somebody there to say, well, now sit up, now do this, do that. Now that's too junky. Put this away, put that away. Concentrate. They need somebody to do that. And so I wish all of the children had somebody at least there. And you can tell which children have somebody there with them because I think they make a visible difference.
Now let me
Yeah.
ask you a question. You said that they were in. You said a couple of things I have questions about.
Okay.
Questions. I was listening to everything. I was like, "Ooh, this sounds good," because I'm at the middle school level. So I'm interested to hear how it's done in the elementary. Even though I do have an elementary school student, but
Uh-huh.
she's very independent. So like I'm
Yeah.
not sitting there watching her. The breakout sessions. So the students go in the breakout sessions by themselves in the
They go
store.
into breakout sessions by themselves and they have work for them to do there. And
Oh,
of course, the work, I guess, is age appropriate because what I've noticed is not too very difficult. It's more or less practice of what they're doing. Say, if it's mathematics or arithmetic, they're doing mathematical sentences, they're recognizing numbers, they're adding and subtracting, simple kinds of things that are easy for them to understand. They're teaching them tens and ones and all of that kind of thing. And then sometimes when they have the breakout, they're doing reading. They're doing words, word recognition, sounds, and all of that. So those breakout rooms enhance what the teacher is doing with them, and they have homework every day.
really?
And if they don't, the teacher manages and checks that homework, and she lets them know that you have not done your homework. Now, my granddaughter did all of her homework and was into this week's homework. Now, I didn't know she was all doing all that, but
Mm,
she was into this week's homework. So you see, so they can catch up. And that's what makes it wonderful along those lines.
mhm.
Uh-huh.
What about the chat box? Do they utilize the chat
Oh,
box?
do they use the chat
Uh,
box? Yes, because what I've noticed is lots of times the teacher gets frozen. She's frozen. I mean, she's there
right.
like that. Just can't move, can't move. So then the children, because the children still hear her talking. And in
Mhm.
the case with, say, my granddaughter, for an example, uh, she asked her a question, and Caitlin could not access the computer to give her the answer. So she said, go into the chat box. So
Okay.
Caitlin went into the chat box and made some sentences in there and told her what was wrong, told her what the situation was. You're frozen. I can't hear you. You know. So the chat box is wonderful.
I know it is.
So you spoke to homework and classwork, and I know that in our system we are using Google Classroom. How
Yes.
do you think it's been for her to be able to navigate through Google Classroom to get her assignments to do?
Oh, she's on top of that Google Classroom.
Mhm.
I don't know why she's on top of it, but now the teacher does explain to them how to get into Google chat classroom, how to get into Clever, how to get into these various entities that they get into during the day. During the day, they go in and out of different rooms and modules and things like that, so that on the weekend they are ready, and in the evening they know just how to go into that Google Classroom, exactly what is to be expected and what their assignments are, and that's what they do.
That's great.
Yeah, it's
That's great.
amazing to me that they know all of that, and I'm sitting like a
To be
stump on
so
a
young,
log. I
right?
said, "Oh,
Yes,
you
to
know
be
that."
so young. And I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that was a big concern for parents, that the younger ones would have a difficult time adapting to it and being able to navigate if they were going to be have their attention kept. And I'm sure some kids that, like you said, the one student is here and there, but those still seem like minor things
Very
to
much.
what we are really talking about. Those are kind of behavioral things.
That's
And,
right. Those are
um,
very minor things because the teacher is on top of that. And I can tell she's a no nonsense teacher, kind of old school. And she'll say, sit up, do this, do that. And they do it. So maybe somebody's slouching and not doing what he's supposed to do, but when she puts them in check, they get in check. One good thing I think, and the reason parents should have somebody there, if it's a big brother, a big sister, a college student, or something, is that to have that support, because every now and then something comes up and they do need somebody to ask a question. Now, my granddaughter is kind of proficient because I didn't know she could be a ventriloquist. She can sit up there and be talking to me, and her mouth doesn't even move. No, she's not supposed to be talking. So she has a way of having her lips together, and she's talking to me and asking me questions without her lips moving at all. So she has that down to a science. So that says to me that she's done that before.
Right.
She's known how to talk.
Yeah. Well,
Without
you know, when your mother say, and you better not
That's
move, and I better not hear sound. She does get things.
That's right. That's right. Now, with my high school
Yeah.
granddaughter, I must say to you, she is more independent. She is somebody that, can hold the reins down herself. That first day I sat in with her, and the teacher was talking about what she wanted them to do, extra assignments. She said, you're in college now. That threw me. You're in college. I said, in college, and she's in the 10th grade, and you're doing this and you're doing that. In other words, that first day, she set the expectations for them. In other words, yes, you're in high school, but you're doing college work, and there are certain standards that you need to uphold to. So it's a very interesting situation, and I think grandparents would enjoy this. And I think there are a lot of grandparents doing just what I'm doing. Because even though your child is independent, just having somebody there, I think makes a difference.
Yeah, and maybe some grandparents. Oh, go ahead, Lori. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that's awesome that you're able to do that, and I'm pretty sure that Hope is real grateful that you're.
Yeah, I really am. It definitely frees up my mind a lot. Maybe some grandparents that didn't think that they would be as useful because you had concerns with COVID and health issues and have quarantined from us for a long time. So it could be some grandparents that want to be useful, but still have those limitations where I don't really want to go around them. I'm going to get sick. And this is shown that it can still be done. It's useful and that kids really need it. And it's good for you too.
Yes.
As a grandparent to be around and just kind of.
Yeah, I think we have to follow precautions because I remind them that we are in COVID. And what we've done is that, of course, the parents go out to work every day. My grandson goes out to work every day. So when they come back, they, of course, wash their hands. They do everything. I'm spraying with Clorox and bleach. Right. And I'm keeping my 6 feet distance from the ones who go out. See, so the girls, okay, we're fine because we're in here, but the ones who go out to work, I'm keeping my distance from.
Right.
I say something crazy sometimes because I don't even hardly go near him. I keep my distance. I'm talking to him like from off a distance. So I think those kinds of precautions is not that you don't love one another, but the elderly have to be very careful.
Yeah. I have a question for you. My thinking, because I'm on the opposite side of the camera. So I want to know, is there anything that you feel being on the side with Caitlin and Courtney and looking, I had a brain freeze for a minute. And looking from that point of view as a formal educator, or let's say an educator, and as a parent, grandparent, anything you think that teachers should be more aware of or that they should address that they may not be aware of because they're on the other side of the camera or the virtual learning experience?
That's an excellent question.
Yes, just I think that some children are more bashful than others.
Mhm.
Some are just out there and they jump right in. But for those who don't say much, uh, they need to know that they're worthy of being called on, that they're worthy, even though the answer might not be correct, that they're worthy. Now, what's interesting about Caitlin's teacher is that she's praising them all the time even
Mhm.
when they make a mistake. They have some kind of theme, the power of yet. That means we haven't gotten there yet, but we're going to get there. This is the beginning of the school year, and there may be some things that you don't know yet, but eventually you're going to know them. So there's power in the word yet. And I think that even though that might not be your theme, just giving every child the opportunity to say something every day, each child would you see you all have big classes, but maybe once a week you can make sure that each child says something at least maybe twice, that nobody is left behind in terms of speaking up, being allowed to participate in the full experience.
That's
I
excellent.
think that's a good observation. That was an excellent question because we are both in middle school. And so we kind of teeter on that wanting to call people, but then not really being able to because they could be embarrassed because they don't read well and they this and they that, So it's kind of like we have all these other things when we're thinking about as to who to call. And because I know this past week, if I had to call on a child to read, I'm kind of looking like who's been answering questions, who seem like they speaking intelligently, so that I can call on them. Maybe they can read, as opposed to calling on somebody that might stumble through. It's been a couple kids I called on, and they like, not today, or my house is too loud, so they don't want to take themselves off of mute,
Yeah.
or just different things that we don't necessarily consider. And I think I've been struck being on this side of the camera how much we actually can see and pick up with kids. I do miss that interpersonal.
Yeah, me too.
Mhm.
I do miss that when you're in class, you kind of feed off the energy from the kids.
You
And
can look at
them, like you said, they just kind of sitting with it like a stump on the log, you
Yeah.
know. So while they might be paying attention, you're not getting the same energy to feed off of.
Mhm.
But you're always going to have those kids that I'm like, raise your hand if you have this, and their hand shoots right up, versus those kids that don't say anything. But I think that's important that we still call on them, even
Mhm.
if it's just to answer a question, a simple question, to say something.
Yeah. Well, I think once you get to know the children that you're teaching, even on the middle school level, there ought to be a couple of questions you can pose to someone who may be teeter-tottering or you're not sure of. Because, some kids are geniuses and things, but they're just not going to participate. They're going to sit back and let somebody else do it because they don't believe that being smart is in,
right.
so to speak. So they're not going to say anything if nobody else says anything. So you're going to have to pull out from some of those young people some questions or answers to questions that you think they may be able to answer. And the thing about it is that you're the teacher, you're in charge. So if they don't want to get off mute and you want them to get off mute, you know, you
Come
have to
on.
make some consequences.
Yeah. Now we do have to make those
That's
decisions
right.
because
Yeah.
one of the big pushes in all the systems have been social emotional learning. So
Mhm.
also being sensitive to the fact that kids are going through things in their homes and we don't want to put them on blast or put them on display. That is really taken into consideration along with, I said you're going to answer this question and you're going to answer this question. So,
Uh-huh.
we kind of got to walk that thin line and
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
patient until we get to know. And I think that one of the things is that when you're on the camera, you don't really get a good picture of them. Like even seeing their face is difficult. And
Yeah.
I ran into one of my students at the store 2 days ago,
Uh-huh.
and I didn't know who he was. And another person pointed out to me, they said, "Do you know this young man?" I was like, "No, I don't know him." And then when they said his name, I said, "Oh, he's in my class." And he said,
Yeah.
"Yeah, he said he was in your class." But I didn't realize it was him because I haven't, if I saw him every day in person and I'm looking at him over and over. So that interpersonal, just making those connections has been difficult through the technology.
Yeah, and then at that age group, you all have a different age group. They have certain peculiarities anyway in
Sure.
terms of how they feel and how they project and all of that. Because I know with my granddaughter Courtney, she has all this big hair, and sometimes that hair will fall down in her face because she doesn't want the people to see her eyes. She don't want the teacher to see who she is. So she may be sitting like that with all that hair down. So kids do have a way of hiding themselves. But then how are you going to know how to grade them, and how are you going to know what to do? How are you going
So
to
Yeah.
assess what they know, but
Yeah, we do have to pull out all the tricks.
I
yeah.
I was gonna add too that in my school, particularly, our students don't have to have their camera on. So I wanted to add that piece too. Yes. So it is a lot of that. I have a lot of creativity. I have to be very flexible. And
Right.
my lessons are very engaging where they have to respond to me through chat box or unmuting. And if they don't, I have to set, perimeters and say, okay, you guys have like 5 seconds to answer me in the chat
Uh-huh.
box. If I don't see an answer, that means you're not responding. That means you're not here.
That's right. That's
And they then all of a sudden I see yes, 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 no, no, no. It comes up.
uh-huh.
And what I
Uh-huh.
also had to do was also had to do polls as well. And I noticed that they like the polls. They really like it. And they like when I share because they're like, can we see? We want to see what the percentage is of who said
Mhm.
yes and who said no. So I have to be real creative as far as how I present my lessons because of that. So when
Well,
you're talking about not knowing your kids, my requirement is even though in my school that the kids do not have to have their camera on, I tell them when they come into the classroom, they have to turn their camera on so I can see their face because I don't know who they are. Most of the kids I don't know. Some of them I taught last year, but
mhm.
a lot of them I don't know.
Well,
So
is that for confidentiality?
because of the whole we have to get forms with opting out so parents in case we want to videotape and confidentiality, privacy. And then I do have a lot of students got a lot of stuff going on. I can actually hear like when they unmute to answer me, I can hear like all the commotion going on in the background.
Wow.
So it becomes an issue where you have to be sensitive to those type of things because not everyone is in an environment where Caitlin and Courtney is, or my kids, Micah and Chloe, like it's
Mhm.
Mhm.
quiet, it's a conducive for learning.
Mhm.
Um, so when you were saying that, I was just like, man, and you're saying at least you get to see what your students
Yeah, see, so even anybody's complaint, you always have somebody that's worse off than
I
you.
know.
And
Right.
so, and I think, Lori, you even have that other layer of the multiculturalism
Yeah.
because a lot of your students are bilingual or English language learners.
Mm-hmm.
So, in addition to those humps with not having a camera and having to talk to chat, and they are special education, a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you talk about the limitations as far as being able to write and read and this and that and answer, you have to even be more, purposeful about who you're going to let answer and what questions they're asking and, how you posing it and all of those things so that they don't get frustrated and
Mm-hmm.
check out on their own because without the camera, you can't even see that they're checking out.
But now I'm wondering whether or not the school system is going to allow the teachers to just get pass fail, because I don't see how you're going to actually give grades. You can't give A, B, C, and D. You don't even know who
Well,
you.
I know last year when we had to go directly to it, they did end up going at the end of the year to pass fail. I think that they just felt like it just wasn't fair that we had to turn over so quick. And so they didn't want to penalize kids by having them fail when they might not have had the infrastructure or the parents at home or anything in place. But this year we are definitely going to grades. They are having a grade. They are still expected to do their assignments and turn them in. They are getting graded on it. But again, we are providing grace by giving them a chance, zooming with them at different times, having more structure as far as schedules, due dates for assignment. You know, last in March, it was kind of all out there. You turn this in, maybe if you want to, maybe at the end of the period, don't penalize them if they don't turn it. You know, now it's kind of like we have to have some accountability
That's right.
in place so that we can make sure that not only the kids but the school system is meeting expectations as far as accreditation and meeting AYP and all of those things that are still on the table and still in play. And it's unfortunate because sometimes I feel like we getting a mixed message where the school system is saying be graceful and be understanding. If they had to turn off their camera, they've had a lot of screen time, they might be having things going on. But then our administration is coming in to do observations and saying the rule is the camera must be on. And if it's 2 or 3 people in there with the camera off, then you are the problem because you're not addressing that they need, first and last names for everybody. If they don't have a first and last name, send them out the room, put them in the waiting room. But then on the other hand, have some grace. Maybe they can't. So we do have to do a lot in kind of balancing that, being there for the student, having the expectations and not lowering those, but having some level playing field for all of them.
I tell you, this is a whole different ball game.
Yes.
Ball game. But I think I don't know. I don't think the children are suffering. Maybe it's just on the elementary school level. I don't think they're suffering if they have good teachers. Now, I'm saying that Caitlin's teacher is an excellent one. And I'm assuming that everybody has an excellent teacher, just like you ladies are excellent teachers, and the teachers who are really concerned and who want to give the parents an opportunity to call, because I did have to contact Caitlin's teacher on an occasion, and she did get back to me, which I was very happy about that. So you do have to be accessible to the parents and grandparents. So that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. I think it just shows that we are just really trying to come together and let everyone know that we are there for each other. I graded some things and had to give a little boy a 0, and his mother today sent me a I don't want to say a nasty email, but she was very much so saying that she was not pleased. So I just said, I'll call you and we can talk about it. She, I can't talk at work. She called me in the evening, like 7 o'clock. And by the time I got finished, she was like, "Oh my goodness, thank you so much. Thank you." Because she just needed some reassurance. And I think, as Lori said, there are a lot of kids whose parents are not home. And then they come home and the kid is like, "I got so much work to do. I didn't find this. I can't find that." And, the parent is just kind of jumping on us, trying to support their child. But we just have to be able to smooth them over and let them know that we're all in this together. If you get upset, just ask for help, and we are all there to kind of help each other through, because we are all learning.
Well, now tell me this. Will the school system provide an opportunity for the teachers to have a Zoom meeting with parents to answer any questions parents might have at this point? Because you're at a point now where parents want to know how my child is doing. How does my child compare with other children in the group? Are all of them climbing the walls, or is it just my child that's giving trouble? Are you going to have those kinds of engagements with parents?
So, to my knowledge, in my school, we've had a back to school night where parents came, but they didn't ask us questions. We just kind of front loaded them with information. But the next time that to my understanding, they're in the process at my school working on virtual parent teacher conference. And then also we'll have our regular parent teacher conference in November, which is like after first quarter. So I'm interested to see how that works out because it's just going to be interesting because I'm used to being in a building and people coming to my room or going to the other teacher's room. So I guess it'll be the same way, just virtually. I mean, because we just had to get used to that virtual thinking.
Yeah.
You know, it pretty much runs the same way how a classroom runs, just a little shorter for us, like maybe by 10 minutes or so. And it's just everything is done virtually. So a lot of times I'm like, oh, do you need a copy of the paper? And I'm like, I mean the document.
Right.
Send you a copy because I'm so used to saying books and textbooks, so now I have to say, you're looking clever, look here, look there, everything. I have to change my way of thinking.
Right. That's right. It's difficult.
I know that's what my school was planning on doing from what I hear. But
we have a couple back to school nights scheduled for each of the schools, but like Lori said, that'll probably be more front loading information. But when I looked up the school calendar today, they do have a date for parent conferences which is always right around progress reports time. And I'm almost certain that they will keep that. And that will be virtual through Zoom, and we will send parents a link. But we just have been strongly encouraged along the way to reach out to parents, to call them, to email them, to invite them to Zoom, anything that can help them feel more comfortable with the process, be able to support their kids and have some accountability so that at the end they cannot say, well, we didn't know what was going on, we couldn't find it. And to keep the school system out of some hot water by saying nobody called us and nobody did. So we have been encouraged along the way to just reach out to parents and offer them support in many ways. But I'm sure that they will have something structured in place when they send out progress reports.
I really hope that parents will try to find time to maybe take off a day and just sit with the child or children to see what it's all about and how their child responds, what the teachers do on, Zoom and all. I think that would be an eye opener for all parents if they could afford to do that, just to stay home one day and just sit and look and listen. It's a growth thing. It's a growth situation there, I think.
Well, I think that's an excellent suggestion to be able to wrap up on. Right. I can say that I do have a lot of kids who are at home by themselves, but I do have parents that are there. And again, as a teacher, that's something that we have to be careful of because, it's people sitting there listening and you don't know they're listening.
That's right.
So while some parents are very supportive and just want the information, some parents are like the little boy, she getting on him for slouching down. She getting on him for eating. So, they're back there kind of waiting for an opportunity to kind of jump in and say things. But in any regards, we appreciate those parents and caregivers that are there, that are able to jump in, especially when they having technical difficulties or, need something. And I certainly appreciate you being here. I don't know what I would be doing if you were not here. And the kids, of course, have been in such good hands that I haven't had to worry. I mean, I've done a couple assignments on Google Classroom, but I'm not rushing home and did they get on here? Did they get on that? What's going on with this? Right. So it is very important that we pull together as communities. And maybe you don't have a grandparent, but maybe you have somebody that you trust at your church or a caregiver down the street that you can kind of, even if it's one day a week or 2 days a week, come over and give support or let them come over and give support.
It takes
Mhm.
a village.
It
Yeah,
does
it
take a
does take a
village. It does.
village.
And now more than ever, we need the village. We need the village.
That's true. That's true.
Well, we certainly appreciate you
Well,
taking the
thank
time
you
to
so
come on
much.
and
I've
share
enjoyed
your
it.
experiences. I'm hoping that you have inspired others to take the reins and do this for somebody else. I've seen a bunch of people that have their friends' kids come over and they taking in 4 and 5 other kids
That's right.
around the table because they know that kids need somebody there, even in high school.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yes, indeed.
yeah.
Well, thank you, ladies, so much. I've
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it so immensely.
All
We
right. Well,
enjoyed
thank you
it.
so much. And if you have not liked our page on Facebook, please do so.
I do. I do.
All right. And have a good evening.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.